Thank you for joining us again. This is Paul Wilson.
And Chris Emke.
You're listening to the Diesel Performance Podcast. We got a special guest in the studio today, DJ. DJ, how the hell are you?
What's going on, guys?
Dude, I feel bad for every one of our listeners that go on our Facebook page or our Instagram and see his ugly ass working on transmissions.
I'm still trying to sell him to Shibby. I told him I'd cut a deal to sell you in a heartbeat. DJ, you are the lead technician over at Duramaxtuner Calibrated Power. You do the engine builds, trans builds, turbo installs, injector jobs, and all sorts of other bullshit nonsense.
Yep, everything they gave to me.
I mean, he's like a trans master. Like, in a week, he'll have like 7 transmissions in stock. I'm like, where the hell did these come from? He's like, dog gets it done.
I love it.
For all the listeners, a reference at the shop, everyone refers to everyone as dog.
Right.
So, or Bill.
Not confusing at all to us old guys.
Nope.
They call me Squad, so.
They do call you Squad.
Even though I'm only one person, not multiple.
Right.
He does enough work for multiple people.
I get it now. Actually, Squad just finally, 3 years we've worked together, it finally made sense right now. Like, I just got it. Slow to the party, but still there. Okay, DJ, we brought you in for a new segment here called From the Shop so that the technicians over at Calibrated Power, Duramaxtuner, can tell our listeners a little bit about some of the stuff that they're working on here in the shop. Mm-hmm. What do you got?
Well, we got our old race truck that we sold as a roller, and a customer bought it to us to make it run again. And the truck was an LB7, and he wanted to do an LBZ swap in it. So, stuff I don't like, wiring, but
a lot of it.
A lot of wiring. So the entire truck had to be torn apart. Every wire harness came off of a donor truck to go into the race truck. So headlight harness, taillight harness, fuel tank harness, the dash harness, even though there's no dash in there. Just everything had to come out to make this truck work.
That sounds like a total fucking nightmare.
Yeah, it was 2 trucks on a lift, pulling the bed off each truck, swapping everything out, and you plug one thing in, turn the truck on, doesn't work. So go get another harness, put it in, until finally the whole thing was an LBZ. There's not one part of an LB7 left on that truck.
There's no blueprint to do something like this. You don't jump on and follow instructions from somebody when you do a project like this.
No, it's take it apart and you pretty much figure out how to do it yourself.
I love the idea here. I just want to back up for our listeners. So Duramaxtuner had our own race truck, regular cab, LB7, ran 10s in it. You ran 990.
Yeah, 999, 996, something like that.
Yeah,
plus tax.
Not that he even remembers it, right? So you ran the fastest time in it. You drove the truck. You worked on the truck, and then the company is like, you know what? We're done with this truck. We're going to sell it. So we sell it to a customer as a roller, and then the customer is like, you know what, guys? You are going to fucking work on this truck, and brought it right back to you.
Yeah.
I think the best part is it exchanged hands a couple times. Like, it went to someone local, then it went to the East Coast, then it went to Arizona, and then it came back here.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. All right, so this thing's had a life. So LBZ build for a race truck, what'd you put in it?
Well, a customer had a crew cab short bed LBZ pickup that we had built the motor in 3 years ago, that he was now giving to his wife. So he wanted a stock motor in there. That's where we got the parts truck from, was to use a motor out of that to put in.
But you pulled all the wiring out of it. So what did he use to go back in the wiring in his
the donor truck?
Oh,
the donor truck.
There's a third truck.
There's 3 trucks in the lot.
He had 3 trucks here. I got to make 2 of them run.
Okay.
So built motor came out of his built motor truck.
Yeah.
So the stock motor could go back in it for his wife to drive. So the built motor could go into an LB7.
And then it's not like the LB7 went back into one of the LBZs. It's just the LB7 was just out of it.
Yeah,
now.
I mean, that was just a roller. So
there's 3 trucks and 3 engines.
Yeah, 3. We kept ours.
Okay, Copy. That sounds like a real nightmare. And wiring is one of those things that you're absolutely right. I've never heard a mechanic who's like, "Ooh, I get to do wiring today." That's not fucking real.
No one's ever said that.
Obviously, you had the problem of like not having a blueprint to follow and instructions or anybody to really call and ask like, "Hey, what do I do next?"
Yeah.
So the process was pretty much just the shotgun approach. You just keep shooting until you hit something.
Yeah, I mean, I had everything plugged in where I thought was the right spot. You know, everything plugged in. Okay, everything's good. Turn the key on, and the brake lights are stuck on. not hitting the brake pedal. So I'm like, is the brake switch different? So I switched brake switches and put that in. Still on. I'm like, all right. Start messing with wires, looking at stuff, unplug a couple things, light goes off. I'm like, okay, well, figure out what connector it was. Well, GM doesn't use the same connector. There's like junction blocks in the dash on the sides, like where the fuse panel's at.
Okay.
And there's harnesses that plug into this, and they don't use the same style connector in that same block, so you don't get confused. So it's one plugs in only one on one junction block. Well, there's no dash in that truck, so I had the whole wire harness taped together, zip tied together, and the connector fits on both sides of the junction block. So I had it plugged in the wrong junction block, which was giving the brakes power all the time, even though you weren't compressing the brake pedal, leaving the lights on. So,
oh, Jesus.
Figured that out. And then there was a battery light on the dash, which was confusing because it had brand new batteries in it. So can't really do anything about that. I ran for codes to see if anything popped out to me, like, oh, this isn't plugged in, but there's a lot of stuff that's not plugged in.
Right, I was going to say, yeah, what does a DTC list get you? Just a list of all of the shit
everything that's not plugged in. I'm like, well, nothing jumped out, and then I was messing with the wiper switch, and I turned the wipers all the way on. They didn't work, but the light went off. So now I'm like, all right, well, the light's off, but why don't the wipers work?
Well, there's no wipers on the truck. Fuck it.
No, I put them on.
Okay.
So turn the wipers on. They don't work, but the battery light goes off. Well, there's a harness for the heater core box that has all for the actuators for the heat and AC that I didn't put in the truck because obviously it doesn't have it. I was like, you don't need that. No big deal. Oh, you need it. You need that harness plugged into that junction block for everything to work.
Jesus.
So it's a full
Christ.
circuit, more or less.
Full, yeah. Everything's got to be in there. Like I said, every harness off that donor truck is on the race truck now.
That's awesome. Crazy.
But now it's key on. It's an LBZ now. I mean, there's no issues, no lights on the dash. It's ready to go.
So it's an easy swap. You would definitely recommend the guys to do it at home.
Call Paul.
Everybody just looked at me like I was an idiot here.
You are.
No, fair enough. Okay. What problems would guys run into at home? Like, if you were doing this in your garage and you didn't have 2 lifts and a full mechanics bay to work from, where would you just think, like, is the biggest problem?
The whole thing. I thought it was going to be cut and dry. I'm like, it's 99 or 2000 to 2007, classic body style. It's all the same truck, I'm like, I'll just unplug the engine harness from the fuse block, plug in, we should be good to go. It didn't work out like that. Okay. The earlier fuse blocks are different. It's a whole different setup. So I think if the race truck was like an 03 and up, like 03, 04 LB7.
Might be a little different.
I think it would have plugged in and worked pretty decent.
Yeah.
But being in the earlier style, it wouldn't work.
It's crazy because, Chris, we've gotten a ton of guys to call in and ask about this. I blew up my LB7. I want to put an LBZ in it. And we always just tell them, no, it's a nightmare. Don't do it. But very little experience actually making it work because it is such a fucking pain in the ass.
Yeah. Well, not only did I get one truck, I got 2 trucks to do that too in the same week. I did that on Lee's truck too. So
Lee Stilts went from an LOY to an LBZ.
Really?
He didn't bring us a donor truck. He literally got everything from the donor truck. But yeah, I mean, that's a little different. That's a sled pull truck. A lot of stuff doesn't have to work. And Lee literally wants as minimal wires as possible.
Yeah. So I literally get done doing this, and they're like, oh, yeah, guess what? You got another one. I'm like, what the fuck do you mean I got another one? Like, this just doesn't happen.
Haven't seen one in 4 years, and then 2 pop up in a week.
We'll just keep it coming. Keep it coming his way.
Yeah, if you're looking to swap an LBZ into your LB7.
You know what? Let's do it. If you want to swap an LML into your LB7, we got a guy.
Well, it just, now that I've done it, it makes you realize and think about a Duraburb swap and how much time and effort's into it, to why it costs so much, because you are buying 2 trucks. And it's not just, you put a motor and trans in it. Everything is getting swapped, because you have a Suburban that's gas that now the whole dash isn't going to work because your cluster's different. You got, a 6-speed in there with, you got a glow plug light on the dash, the RPM's different. So you're swapping everything to do this Duraburb swap. So it makes you understand a little more why it's so expensive to have a Duraburb.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point, man. It builds a lot of value in it. Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Any tips for somebody who's going to do something stupid and try it at home?
I mean, just have patience. I mean, you got to be patient and just, figure it out.
Dude, my advice would just be don't.
I mean, but you tell someone to do it and they're going to do it. So
yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
Cool.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, DJ. We really appreciate you stopping in and helping us out with that.
Yeah, no problem.
This week, we also have our Exergy do's and don'ts, which includes our sponsorship from Exergy.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Absolutely. They wanted to talk to us a little bit, or wanted us to talk to you a little bit about their Sportsman injectors. Okay. Drop-in injectors, their stock replacements, about a 5 to 10% over. Real slight power bump there. No need to retune. Available for all of the common rail diesels that they support. This week's, you want the do or the don't, Chris?
I'm going to let you do the do. I'll do the don't.
I dig it. Okay. Right. Do use the appropriate 6.7 liter Cummins fuel rail for the build you have. So there's some different options out there. You can just get a stock rail. You could reuse your old rail, which we've told you not to 100 times. You could also take a look at the new Billet 6.7 Cummins dual feed fuel rail. These rails have a 10% increase in the volume over stock. They're a 2-feed port, larger orifice diameter for the injector ports, and will be plated for extended durability and reduced wear. It's a drop-in rail for the 6.7 Cummins application. It's really good if you have a big fuel system. If you have all stock fuel, or if you're dropping in a set of Sportsman injectors, you do not need this. If you have a set of 150% overs and dual CP3s, this would be a really smart investment. So take a look at that. Make sure you're matching up your parts that make sense. If you got big fuel, you're going to need a bigger fuel rail.
As far as their don'ts, this is something I stress to a lot of guys, is don't skip testing and balancing. Okay, so this is more directed to the guys that have used injectors and they throw nozzles on them. And then they cry and complain that they smoke and they're very hazy. So when Exergy does a test and balance, they adjust internal assembly dimensions that may have drifted over time from the prior or proper specifications, okay? So again, 20, 30,000 mile, 50,000, 80,000 mile set of injectors, slap a set of nozzles on them, go to town, doesn't work that way.
Right.
They measure and correct the proper operations across the operating range from idle to full power. This is key for smoke control.
Well, it is, because how many times have we had guys say like, oh, well, I got new injectors and they work great up top, but they're really smoky down low. It's like, well, you would think that's a tune issue, but we have dialed that in to find out it's an actual injector physical issue.
When Nick was teaching me tuning, right, I had a couple buddies' trucks that we were doing at the time, or I was doing at the time, and he threw on a set of 150 horse nozzles on like a 120,000 mile body, right? Yeah. And it got to the point where I was pulling so much fuel out of the mixture table that the truck was not responsive and it was still hazing and still smoky. And then the last part here is they say this becomes increasingly important with higher nozzle flows. So again, you throw 150 horse, 200 horse, 300 horse, 200%, 100% over nozzles. That body needs to be calibrated to keep the pressure and to keep like leaking past that nozzle itself. Again, the help with the burn. In tuning, there's only so much that you can do. So if you have the proper parts and the proper tuning, it's going to be a cakewalk.
That's it, man. That's well put, sir. From Facebook this week, of course, is sponsored by one of our favorite sponsors, WC Fab. They wanted me to talk a little bit about their twin turbo kits. They have everything. Yeah, is the reality here. So if you got a Duramax or a Cummins, this is your go-to spot.
Yeah, I get a lot of guys. Recently, I've been getting some inquiries here at the shop, about Duramax and Cummins kits. And they always ask, well, what else is needed? Nothing.
Right.
If you want a kit, this is I don't want to say a turnkey kit, because it's a lot of assembly, but
26 hours of labor.
Yeah,
turnkey.
But it's literally everything needed. So you buy one of their kits, you're not going to have to go to the hardware store. You're not going to have to order parts from, another vendor or something like that. They will have everything in the box from start to finish for the full assembly, other than tools and a mechanic to do the work.
You said it, man. Absolutely. So this week's from Facebook, we got a message from Robbie Baker. Robbie said, "Hey guys, love the podcast. I have a 2010 LMM with all the basics done. Deletes, tune, intake, exhaust, stock air, trans, fuel. Just watched your video on the Allison trans learning procedure. In the video, it showed the learn option commonly used on the CTS2. I've heard that there is a more comprehensive learn procedure that is recommended after a trans build. Is this done through a Tech 2? What are the differences between the CTS2 2 and the Tech 2 TransLearn. I actually already replied to Robbie and let him know that we'd be bringing this out for our From Facebook segment. Chris, this is a pretty basic one. The CTS2 does what's called the Fast Learn, and the Tech 2 does a Full Learn. The Fast Learn grabs a small, basic, very important set of parameters and relearns those parameters. Okay. Clutch heights, clutch tolerance, things like that. The Tech 2 with a Full Learn or a Slow Learn is everything. That's your entire everything that the transmission can learn. It resets to 0. Now, the Fast Learn will set some Fast Learn flags, meaning that it'll require less repeats of the same shift, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, or reverse of that. So it needs less of those inputs before it says, okay, we've learned it.
We're good.
A Slow Learn will take a lot of information over a longer time and give you a more comprehensive result at the end. We do recommend after a trans build to do the Full Learn or the Slow Learn with the Tech 2 as opposed to the Fast Learn. There's actually very few situations where I recommend the Fast Learn, at least to customers. How about you?
Yeah, I don't really do any of the relearn process. It's just drive it, get some miles on it. You know, the trans is going to learn a lot of different ways. I know that's not necessarily the best. I might get some flack for this, but that's what I've always done on my own stuff.
Yeah. And I think it's situation depending, right? Yep. If you did just put a trans in it, now is the time to do a learn.
Absolutely.
If you've been driving the truck for 100,000 miles and yesterday it started shifting funny, a trans learn's not going to help you.
No.
So you got to know when to use these tools, right? But yeah, I thought that was a really good from Facebook from Robbie. So thank you so much for the message and the question. Definitely appreciate you watching those Diesel Insights videos. Speaking of Diesel Insights, sponsored by Duramaxtuner and Calibrated Power, just want to go over a couple of the ones that have been out there, Chris. I've actually been getting a lot of message where I find myself just sending them the link to the video.
Yep, it's been a big one for me too.
So we have hit turbochargers, all of the Duramax, LML, VVT, LB7, 2.8. That was a good one.
Yeah, it was.
Right? That was a while ago. We covered the dead pedal.
Really common arguments. Cummins tuning.
That was a home run.
That was a huge one.
Yeah.
Failed injectors in the failed CP4. That one, I go on my own Facebook page and I see Nick's face in front of that LML all the time. And I'm on all the LML brother and pages and things like that.
Yeah.
Cold weather was another big one. Like I remember being in the meeting and we were talking about that one and it was just a home run, for sure.
Yeah. Which I thought it was going to be a flop, to be honest with you. I pushed it because I was like, well, this matters in this topic.
Well,
and we need to talk about it.
For us, like, for the guys listening, when we go to Nick or the general manager and they're like, I don't know how interesting that is. And it's like, listen, guys, you're not on the phone. You're not taking all these calls, right? These are questions that I get asked on a routine basis.
Yeah.
And no offense, but I hate them. Like, it's one of those things where we go in circles. Well, my truck used to get this time. Now it's this time. Okay, well, has it been negative 30 for the last 3 effing weeks? Like, was that like that last year? Well, no. Well, we have to put it all in perspective,
right.
So it's one of those things where you blast a real informative video out there that touches base on what most guys across the U.S. have experienced this year. It's been cooler across the nation than it has been years prior. And guys, the fuel economy is suffering due to that. And I think it touched on that very well.
Absolutely. Yeah, 189,000 views on that video. So if you haven't checked it out, jump on Facebook, Duramaxtuner.com's Facebook page, and you'd be able to watch all the Diesel Insight videos. They are all also on the YouTube channel. Yeah. So check that out. Little industry news. This one's kind of a sensitive topic today, guys. We were shocked.
I got in here early this morning, and one of my dealers that I represent called me, and they were like, hey, like they were asking questions. They were, I don't want to say poking around, but they were definitely concerned due to what, had happened here. And, to kind of dive right into it.
Idaho Rob from ATP is no longer selling custom tuning. He did decline an interview for tonight. We're going to try to see if we can get him on when this isn't as raw. Mm-hmm. But he had a post on Duramax Diesel's forums. It said, it is true, unfortunately. ATP cannot sell custom tuning for any truck, even pre-emissions, or trucks with factory emissions still on the vehicle. I'm sorry. This has not been a business decision that I made. It has been made for us. Thank you to all of our great tuning customers. We have always tried to do a great job. I'm going to edit a little bit here. We have a new website coming out next week, and we'll still be focused on the truck industry. We just have new guidelines that need to be followed. Yeah. I want to say that we don't know exactly what's going on, first of all. So we don't have a lot of insider information on this one, and we hope to bring that to our listeners here in the future. we have tackled this EPA question in the past.
Yeah. It's an underlining issue in the diesel industry.
It is. It really is. And Idaho Rob's a great guy. He's been on the show. We did an awesome episode with him where he told all of our listeners as much information he could about all of his extensive experience in drag racing. Yep. He's been a staple in this industry since EFI Live came about. Yeah. He's one of the very first tuners out there. He's one of the
first Duramax tuners,
We have nothing but respect for Idaho Rob. We really hope everything pans out and goes nice and smooth for him, or as smooth as it possibly can. But we did just feel it was necessary from a news standpoint to at least acknowledge this is happening. There is going to be more conversations about this in the future. But on to a lighter note, I have some really good news, Chris. We actually have a repeat guest.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Who's on for a different purpose this time. So last time we had Kelsie Epp on, it was just to talk about her truck and being in the diesel performance world. This time she is officially a UCC qualifier.
That's exciting, man.
So Kelsie Epp, how the hell are you?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good, Paul.
I'm glad to have you on the show. I definitely appreciate you taking out some time to talk to us. Last time you were on, we talked about your experience at the Diesel Power Challenge. I want to say out at UCC, we kind of talked about just being in the diesel industry. So we've definitely had a chance to talk with you a few times. It's awesome. You are officially a UCC qualifier this year.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited.
I want to say the last time we interviewed you, you had melted down a piston at Diesel Power Challenge. So I'm going to say it's not the same engine you had there.
That's a pretty safe assumption, Paul. The fucking people I get to work with.
I'm a rocket scientist. Just trust me.
It is pretty different now.
It's 7 fucking cylinders now, Paul. That's what's different. God damn it.
Dude, you don't got none of them V7s where you're from? V7s. She's in Canada, bro. They couldn't get the extra 8. The exchange rate was killing her.
Oh my God.
That's racist.
That was awesome.
Okay, so Kelsie, tell me about the truck. What are you taking this year?
We just upgraded the turbos, so we went with all new piping, fast fab built, and there's 274 SXEs feeding into a 476 SXE.
Kelsey's coming to party.
And he just put in a 850 cage into it as well.
Oh, wow.
So it's ready to go now. We're just waiting to get the transmission back. Got a refresh on that. Dimitri Millard put some more new goodies into it, so it should be exciting.
That sounds like a nasty setup. I mean, for the qualifier bracket to be in triples, that's a big build.
Now, what do you have as far as the fuel setup goes, if you don't mind me asking?
One pump is still stock. Then I have the ATS dual fueler, just a 250 fast system, and then the dynamite diesel injectors are about 250%.
Okay.
She's got fuel. So she's got air.
It's not a ton, but it's enough.
It's enough to get by. It's just enough, right?
Are you still street driving the truck?
No.
No.
Pulled out the whole interior to do that cage, so no.
Gotcha. Okay. I mean, are you going to be drag racing this then going forward? Is that kind of the purpose of the build?
Yeah, I think so. Or sled pulling or dynoing, whatever. I love it all.
Or street driving it on a beautiful Saturday night.
Right, whatever. Yeah.
I mean, I would.
Yeah. Yeah, that might happen. So it still has registration and insurance. So who says you can't?
Exactly.
I love it.
You have a cage. You're safe.
Yeah. Yeah. I was at a truck show in our drag truck, actually the one we were talking about at the top of the show here. So when we had that, it was only twins then, like barely 1,000 horse. I take it out to a local truck show, and there's a cop, he was on patrol and was like, oh, there's this kid's car show. And got out of his car, was just walking around like an attendee. And he pokes his head inside the truck and sees like the 5-point harness. And he's like, oh, so you're trailering this home tonight? And I'm like, no, what the fuck are you talking about? He's like, you can't be on the road with that. I'm like, that's the safest seatbelt ever made. They when you go fast, they make you wear this. He's like, there is not a paramedic in this world that's going to be able to get you out of this thing when you crash. And I was like, all right, cool. Oh. Why don't you leave so I can go home? Right.
By the way, I didn't wear the seatbelt to begin with.
So, Kelsie, the Diesel Power Challenge made you do all sorts of other obstacles, literally an obstacle course, a trailer race, a fuel mileage test, all these other things that you had to prepare for, or at least be aware of, and know how to drive and things like that to really be a competitor there. UCC is balls out power competition. How does that change your strategy getting ready for the event?
I guess just try to add a little more power. And driving-wise, I mean, I've been drag racing for like 10 years now. And I guess the extra power and the bigger turbos might be a little bit of a learning curve, but I should have the truck ready to go and dynoing by the end of March, I'm thinking. So then should be able to get a feel for it and work out any kinks before May.
Well, I mean, get a little acclimated with the setup prior, know what the truck's going to do. You know, you're able to, judge it, I guess you would say, or predict what it's going to do. I mean, that's in the right direction.
Do the tracks open in Canada before May?
No.
Right?
Didn't think of that.
The very end of May. Oh. Yeah, so I'm not going to get on the track, but
or you just come to the States.
Hopefully get it on the dyno and maybe on the street a little.
Or you just come to the States a couple weeks early.
Yeah,
I can't quite do that.
Leave your job for 2 weeks to test the truck. Right.
Winning UCC qualifier is more important than winning Paul.
It is work, Chris. It is work. Okay, so you have a lot of experience drag racing. I know we've talked about that in the past. How many hooks do you have under your belt? Have you sled pulled a lot up there?
Not a lot, no. I'm going to say maybe 5.
Okay, that's actually more than some of the UCC competitors last year, to be honest with you. Combined, I bet I can grab 3 or 4 guys.
I know what it's about, but I know what it's about, but I'm by no means spectacular.
At UCC, I don't even know if it matters, to be honest with you. Wade Minter pulled up to the sled pole, said, I've never hooked anything to this truck before in its life. It's a drag truck. There's no bad. Like, it's a joke. He killed it. Same thing with Mike Graves. A bunch of guys, like, they went out there.
Power-driven?
We all thought power-driven diesel were like experienced sled pullers, and they just told us last week, they're like, I'd never done that before. We just hook to the sled and go.
They were going to other crews in the pits asking them what to do.
Yeah. Straight up.
Hey, man, you got to start somewhere.
Wow.
I dig it. So not too much worry there, but the dyno, man, some of the qualifiers, you got some real competition out there. Charlie Keeter's bringing triples. A couple other guys are bringing triples.
You know what? If I beat Charlie Keeter, I'll be a winner no matter what.
Keeter and Kelsie, call out. I like it.
There you go.
I like it.
She did it in a really nice way, though.
I'd like some revenge,
A very Canadian way of saying that. Yes. Yes. A little revenge. He did not melt the piston for you, Kelsie. I just want to be clear.
No, he didn't. He kicked my ass, though.
That truck, I hate saying it every time I do it, but that truck is just a bad motherfucker. For what it's worth.
He's got a horseshoe up his ass.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
You know what? Since he called me an asshole, I'll agree.
Yeah.
Fuck him. Just playing Charlie. All right, so Charlie's definitely a guy you're looking to beat, regardless of where the rest of the competition goes. But top 10 qualifiers get a seat in the competition next year to actually be a competitor. Is that the end goal here?
I'm not going to be heartbroken if it doesn't, because, I mean, look at the trucks. Some of the trucks that are coming are unreal.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the experience in being there is really big. And I have just personal goals, I guess, to beat Keeter and make 1,600 horse and make the truck live through the competition. Then I'll be happy.
That is the big one, and I'll be honest, that has not been your strong point at previous competitions.
No.
Do you have some plans to pull it back? Like if you get yourself, because I don't know the order of how they're doing the qualifiers, because you're not doing the same thing as the competitors, like day to day. So
right.
Do you go balls out? If you sled pull day one, that's usually where we see most trucks break. Is that?
I think we're all sled pulling the same day, and I think that's still the last day.
Oh, okay. Okay, so they're just going to swap dyno and drag racing then.
And we're going to bring some parts, but it should be okay.
So you know where I'm going with this. What's in the backup crew?
Everything's overbuilt compared to when we went to Diesel Power Challenge. Like, we actually know what to expect now. We know what we have.
All right, so you're feeling pretty confident the truck at the very least is going to make it through all 3 competitions. You're going to pull 1,600 on the dyno. Any predictions on the track, on the drag race?
Anything under a 10 was good for me.
Okay. And then just full pull at the sled pull, because who knows, right? So 300 feet or break.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. What have been some of the challenges you've run into as you're building this monster?
Oh, my God. We could be here all day into those. But I guess when we went with the cast pistons for Diesel Power Challenge, that was definitely an error on our part. Just had an injector that stuck open and melted it down. So then we went with forged pistons, and then we went full out with the forged crank and everything in the new motor.
Okay.
And we've already, it's already been together. Just all last season, I used it, and so that engine's stout and happy and ready to go. And what other issues have we had? Oh, always fighting wiring issues. That's fun. When I first bought the truck, it was a complete nightmare, and we've had to redo everything, and we still find little issues here and there with wiring.
It seems to be a common trend with 01 to 05 trucks, I feel.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's a pain in the ass.
All right. Awesome. Any final words, any shout-outs you'd like to give?
Just a big thanks to Supreme Diesel, DSC Diesel, Fast Fab, Dynamite Diesel, No Zone Diesel, and I'm sure I'm forgetting someone. Oh, yeah, Idaho Rob, of course, for spending all of his time tuning it. So.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Kelsie. We'll let you get back to your travels. We know you're tied up at the airport there.
Okay, thank you.
Listeners, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been Paul Wilson.
And Chris Emke.
Have a great night.
Calibrated Power Solutions, the leading North American developer of clean diesel power and home of Duramaxtuner.com, is the proud sponsor of the Diesel Performance Podcast. Calibrated Power develops emissions-equipped calibrations for a wide variety of diesel powertrains, including the Duramax, Cummins, Jeep, John Deere, and many more. For more information and the best customer service in the industry, check out calibratedpower.com or call 815-568-7920. That's 815-568-7920. If you'd like to contact the Diesel Performance Podcast, send us a message through Facebook or email paul@duramaxtuner.com or Chris at CEHMKE@duramaxtuner.com. You could also reach him by phone. Chris's extension is 2121, Paul's is 2122.
Dude, you don't got none of them V7s where you're from? She's in Canada, bro. They couldn't get the extra 8. The exchange rate was killing her.